Hey budget gardeners, Vita Loca here. Join me today as we do some flower bed maintenance on what I call the lilac bed. So let's go. This flower bed is located on the west side of my house, and the reason I call it the lilac bed is right there is a big huge lilac tree. My yard does not get a ton of sun, but that lilac tree does great in that spot. So I think the name is appropriate for this bed. I already started doing some maintenance in this bed, and I thought I'd take you along because I think you would enjoy watching this progress. So what I started doing was a few things. Towards the front of my bed over here, I have creeping phlox, which I planted in the springtime. I also had some Lamium that was already in this bed, and I dotted them in between each of the creeping phlox. I didn't have a lot of Lamium, so I divided it just enough so that it can grow and get bigger for next year. The next thing I've been doing is in the back of the bed, I have some Baptisia or false indigo. And I started digging some of it out and potting it up. I'm going to show you how I dig that out, how I divide it and pot that up. Also, for my Stella D'Oro daylilies, which by the way, don't they look great? I've been deadheading those because I want them to keep reblooming into the season. You can see over here, I've started weeding. It looks so much nicer than over on the other side of the bed, like down over there. Also, I have some daffodils that are right there. And also I have some that are right there. And I already cut them back. There is a little bit of green showing on them, but I want to move them, and I want to move them to the back side of the daylilies because I want their green foliage to stay through the season. I just don't want to look at the green foliage. So I'm going to be moving those towards the back. We'll be digging up all those daffodils together, dividing them and moving them. And then finally, I have some mums that are over here. I really want to move those mums, but I can't. Here in New Hampshire, I have to wait until the springtime. The one thing I can do, since it is early July, is I can cut them back by half. I really need to do that like today because the longer I wait, I take a chance of not having blooms in the fall. So I plan on cutting each of those mums back by half so that they're a bushier plant. So let's continue working on where I left off on this project. Deadheading Stella D'Oro daylilies, as well as any other daylily that reblooms, is very important. You want the energy to continue going to creating more flowers and not into producing seed pods and eventually seeds. So you can see I've already cleaned up this daylily over here, this one over here, as well as this one over here. I'm going to show you what my process is for deadheading the daylilies. When it comes to deadheading the daylilies, I'm looking for a couple of things. This one right here has a blossom that's already gone by. It also has a seed pod or a seed head that's producing here. I don't want that. I don't want the plant to put its energy into creating more of a seed pod and then eventually seeds. So I follow the stem all the way down to the bottom as far as I can get into the plant, and I cut that right off. Here's another one. Sometimes it can be tricky to tell what's a seed pod and what's not. That right there is what you're looking for. That is definitely not a bud for a flower. That's a seed pod. And over here is another seed pod. This is a blossom that's gone by, so there's nothing on this stem that's of any good at this point. So I'm going to follow it all the way down as far as I can get in the plant and cut that. On this stem here, that's a bud. I don't want to touch that. These are blossoms. They will bloom today, hence the name daylily. It only blooms for one day, and then tomorrow they will go by. But on the back side here, over here, I can take this one off very carefully. Same with this. I don't want to touch this blossom, but this one here, I can remove that guy. On this one here, I want to remove that. I have a ton of these daylilies in my yard. And yes, it takes me a long time to do this process. I basically come out here once a week and deadhead all my daylilies. But it is so well worth it because I want to enjoy these blooms throughout the season. I'm going to go ahead and continue deadheading these plants, and I will show you what they all look like when I'm done. I feel like there's something very satisfying, almost therapeutic, when it comes to deadheading daylilies. More than anything, I just think it looks clean and tidy, and realistically, as the season goes on, it does become a bit of a chore. My goal is once a week to clean them up and deadhead them. If I happen to have small opportunities here and there in between, I'll definitely come out and tackle small beds at a time. I just want to make sure that I'm being realistic with my goal, and I think once a week is a realistic goal when it comes to deadheading the daylilies, especially because I have so many. Over here are 3 groupings of daffodils, and I planted them here. I didn't love where I placed them for the simple reason that the green leaves were still showing during the season. I would rather hide these daffodils behind the daylilies, and then I don't have to cut them back. I can let them keep feeding the bulbs. We're going to go ahead and dig them up. It's early July, and it is okay to do this. I can do this really any time of the year, as long as I can find the bulbs, which, as you can see right now, I can. These look like they're starting to rot, so I'm actually going to discard these. And these look a little bit better. You want the roots to be white. These just don't look so good. And these look great. So I'm going to show you the pile that I started, where I started digging out all the daffodils, and I'm just collecting them for right now. Today is a somewhat cloudy day with sprinkles of rain, a little bit of shower activity going on. So it's actually a perfect day for me to be doing this, and I can have them sitting outside of the ground for a little while until I'm ready to plant them. So let me show you what I have for daffodils so far that I've dug up from this bed. These are the daffodils that I've collected so far. When I'm done weeding this bed, we will go ahead and plant the daffodils in the ground together. These are fall mums right here. They're a really pretty yellow color. And it is early July. It's safe for me to be able to cut these back. I want to cut these back because they are very, very tall and very leggy. And they'll end up flopping over in the fall if I don't give them a little bit of a cut. So I'm going to cut them by half right now. Next year, I do want to experiment with propagating mums from cuttings, but just due to timing and everything else, I'm not going to do that this year. When it comes to cutting your mums, you want to cut it down to a set of leaf nodes. So like right over here or down over here. As long as it's right above where a leaf is coming out. I could probably even cut these a little bit shorter if I wanted to, but I'm going to leave them as is. Anything's better than what it is right now. So all the weeding has been done, and also I finished deadheading or cutting back all of the perennial mums. I think it looks pretty good. So the next thing we're going to do is right towards behind the daylilies over here, we have some Baptisia or false indigo. We're going to dig some together. A few years ago, I planted false indigo or Baptisia in the back of this bed. And you can see there are a lot of plants here. And I trialed it. I gave it a shot. A few of them did bloom. Most of them do not bloom in this area. I think it's just not sunny enough over in this spot of the bed. So I'm going to be digging all of these out. Let's go ahead and dig a few of them together. Some of these plants are definitely smaller, like this one, and some are much bigger, like this one. So the smaller ones should be pretty easy to dig out. Baptisia are known to have a taproot, so you want to make sure when you're digging, you're trying to dig as much of the root out as you can. So you can see that the root starts here, but it goes way down. So I'm going to keep on digging. There is a tree root right here, and the root from my Baptisia goes right under it. So let's dig on the other side. What I'm going to do is pull the Baptisia under this root that's over here. Not easy. You would have thought that this little tiny guy would be simple to dig. And worst case, in situations like this, you pull as much as you can, and good enough. So you can see that there is some root down here. There's some root here. And it's one plant. So I'm going to go ahead and this will get potted after I'm done digging all of these out. I'm going to do one more together, and then I will do the rest by myself. You want to be out enough from the plant. It's inevitable. You are going to end up breaking part of the root. They don't love to be transplanted, but this is the only way to do it, is to go around the plant and just start digging and get as much of the root as you can. Surprisingly, this came out a lot easier than its smaller plant that was next door. That looks pretty good. Nice root system. Another one. Nice. I got 3 plants out of that. Okay, I'm going to finish digging the rest of these, and then I'm going to show you how I pot them up. Okay, well, I dug up all of the Baptisia or false indigo, and it's all in this wheelbarrow. So I'm going to go ahead and show you the process that I go through to pot them up. And the reason I'm potting them up is simply because I don't need this much in my yard. Actually, most of my yard is shade. There's only small sections of it that are sun or full sun. So I'd rather give it to other people that can use it in their yards. So I'm going to go ahead and show you how we pot them up. In case you're wondering where I am currently in my barn, and this is a great place for me to do work like this, especially on a hot sunny day or a day like today where it is now raining. So with this piece right here, I am going to actually pot it up together, even though there's 2 sprigs. If I wanted to, I could cut it right there because there is a small piece of root coming off of this piece here, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go ahead and pot this as one plant. I reuse containers that I already have in my house, and I also have soil that I get from our local transfer station for free. So my cost on doing these types of projects is very low, almost free. So I'm going to go ahead and add some more dirt. I'm going to fill it to about 1/3 of the pot. Place the plant in and fill it to the top. And good enough. This plant is ready to go to a new home. If I had to guess, I would say that this is a 2-year-old Baptisia. And these plants over here are 1-year-old. They're not even 1-year-old. I winter sowed them this past winter. So they're less than 1-year-old Baptisia plants. I will eventually be doing a video that shows you how many Baptisia plants and other plants I got from the winter sowing method. I think you will be pleasantly surprised. Okay, I'm going to finish potting up all of these false indigo. And I will show you how many of these plants we collected from my lilac tree garden. Well, I finished potting up all of the Baptisia. There are 45 plants. I can't believe it. So I decided to bring them down to the nursery, and I will end up selling most of them because I think there's going to be a lot of people that will be looking for this particular plant. They look very sad right now, but they will bounce back. They're just under a little bit of shock. So I'm very happy with how many plants I was able to dig out of that one garden. So what I did with the daffodils is I spaced them out. I started with 3 in each pile, and I counted 1, 2, 3 feet away and did the next pile and went all the way to the other side of the circle. When I had extra daffodils, I then just added them to the pile. I think this will look really nice. My goal is in the springtime, I want to have a lot of daffodils all the way around this circle. But I do want them behind the daylilies because I want the foliage to be hidden in the summertime. What I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to divide one group of these daffodils, and then I will go ahead and plant the rest of them. So let's go ahead and divide a few of them together and then plant them. Now is a great time for me to go ahead and just divide these daffodils. So there's 2 right here, and you just want to very carefully twist them apart. And when you do that, you end up with 2 daffodils, each with roots. Let's go ahead and do one more. So there's a larger one here, a smaller one there. I want to be very careful. Just tease them apart. All right, and now what we're going to do is plant these. You typically want to plant your spring bulbs about 2 to 3 times deeper than the size of the bulb. And if I'm going to go through all this effort, I want to make sure that I'm spacing my daffodils apart quite a bit so that over the next few years, as they multiply, they have room to grow. Now I can go ahead and just backfill. What will happen with the green part of these daffodils is they're going to die back, and you won't even know that there were daffodils here. Well, you will know because you saw it in this video. And then we'll have something to look forward to next spring. All done. I'm going to go ahead and finish planting the rest of these daffodils. Should be pretty quick. This project is complete. I'm really pleased with how tidy everything looks now. And it gives me some more opportunity to do some other things in this bed, which is even more exciting. But I just wanted to point out a few things. For the creeping phlox towards the front of the bed, as well as the Lamium, I know they're placed very close to each other. I'm going to give it time and see how they do. And probably in another couple of years, possibly next spring even, they might need to be divided or moved around a little bit. But for right now, I think they look good. So just to recap, we weeded the front of this bed. We also divided and moved around the Lamium. We also dug out the daffodils from the front of this bed, and we cut back all the mums by half. And then finally, the other thing that we did was when it came to the daylilies, we deadheaded them by either snipping off seed pods or spent blossoms, or actually cutting down the stem if there was nothing left on the stem in terms of flowers. So we got quite a bit done on the front part of this bed. Within the next week, the plan is to add irrigation towards the front of the bed, probably a couple of rows of irrigation, and also I'm going to pack it with annuals. I have the opportunity right now. Next year, the opportunity will be less because the mums and the asters will get moved forward in the spring. But right now, there's a big gap. I'm going to take advantage of it. I'm going to pack it with the annuals. So be on the lookout for that video. And towards the back of the bed, we dug out all the Baptisia. Can you believe there were that many Baptisia back here? We also planted the daffodils towards the back, and also this whole area has now been weeded. The other thing that I did that I didn't show in a video was I trimmed parts of this lilac tree because they were hanging way too low. So that also got done during this project. which is really nice. Hopefully you learned a lot in terms of maintenance and just taking care of certain plants that were in this bed. Until the next video, make it a great day with gardening.